Hi everyone, it's Nurse Amanda here from Palmer Health. Just had a little accident here in the Spanish Highlands. I've slipped and hurt my wrist running away from the biggest spider web I've ever seen. I'm up here with my phone, my hat and a t-shirt and a bikini. So the principles I'm going to use is for a soft tissue injury: rest, ice, compression and elevation. So I'm elevating my wrist and I'm going to just take my t-shirt and wrap it around the injury, forming compression. I go around, I always start at the top of at the distal end where the fingers or toes are, and wind the bandage down back up the body, going with the venous return, the blood flowing back to the heart. I want to be able to stick just one finger in there, and now I'm going to tuck it in under my bikini and start the 3-hour hike back down. The things I need to be careful of now is the circulation. Just remember that when we injure ourselves, the body wants to swell. So while this is a perfect tightness right now, in 20 minutes my arm may swell a lot and I could actually cut off the circulation and cause more damage. So one of the biggest problems we have in wilderness medicine and in first aid is that people forget to check the bandage. They forget to see if the body's swollen, and if it swells too much it can cut off the circulation and cause this horrible thing called compartment syndrome. I'm also checking the circulation in my fingers, so I give it a squeeze and watch the blood flow back, and it should come back within 3 seconds. Because I've had a nasty injury, it's taking 6. But if there was no circulation coming back into my fingers, I'd know that this was a real medical emergency. But luckily that's okay. So rest, ice, compression, elevation, and then evacuation. I hope this helps you one day too. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and get outside and enjoy the outdoors. Thank you. Ciao.